When you think of the best cup competitions in the world, you probably think of this.
Liverpool 3-0. Corner taken quickly, Origi!
Or that.
They've done it. It's Real Madrid.
You know, the usual suspects. But what if I told you it's not what you think? That's right. You might think that the best competitions are the ones with the best teams, the most gifted athletes, and the ones that come with all the glitz and glamour. And look, you're not wrong. But those tournaments are losing their soul. Ticket prices are through the roof, the average fan is being priced out, and the game that we all know and love is slipping away from our fingers. So if you've come here expecting a chat about the Champions League, you might have come to the wrong place. But fear not, because there's another major continental cup competition that still delivers the same amount of chaos and drama. Moments where footballing hierarchy is flipped on its head and history defies all expectations. And that is where the CONCACAF Champions Cup comes in. It's North and Central America's showpiece event. And you might be thinking, yeah, but Sam, if it's that good, how come Mexican sides have won 20 of the last 24 events? And to that, I would say, look, that's a fair point. But before you click off the video, I have to say there's so much more than what meets the eye in this competition. For example, most people would assume that CONCACAF is a region that's just dominated by Mexico, the United States, and just a little bit of Canada. But I would say that that's not entirely the case, because whilst Mexican sides have dominated the tournament, that side is true. You would then assume that the second most successful country is the United States and then maybe Canada. But that's not the case. It's actually from the Primera División de Costa Rica. So that's where this story begins. Sit back, grab your popcorn, and let's dive into the story of the CONCACAF Champions Cup. First off, before we get into the juicy stories behind this competition, we have to talk about the control of the Liga MX. Since the turn of the century, Mexican clubs have had a stranglehold on the competition, with there being just 4 non-Mexican winners since the year 2000. But what makes it particularly interesting is the fact that in the last 7 years, 5 of the winners have been Mexican, but they've all been different teams. In fact, in total, there's been 30 different clubs that have been able to win this tournament, and 14 of those are Mexican. And when it comes to consistent success, only 4 teams in its history have managed to win the tournament back to back, and as you may have guessed, they're all Mexican. But this is where we get into the fun side of the story, where it's not about Mexican control. That's right, Costa Rican sides are the second most successful in the region's history, claiming 6 titles, but 3 of those have gone to the country's most decorated club, Deportivo Saprissa. Their clubs have created their own moment of glory, and there was no finer moment in Costa Rican football than when they had an all-Costa Rican final in 2004. That's right, because the eventual winners, Alajuelense, managed to bounce back from a 1999 finals defeat to Necaxa when they managed to beat the decorated side, the historic side of Costa Rican football, Saprissa. And getting to the final itself meant that they needed to record historic wins. The eventual winners, Alajuelense, managed to bring down Pachuca and the Chicago Fire, while Saprissa did the same to the San Jose Earthquakes and Monterrey. But even in the early 90s, Costa Rican clubs had a dominant run in the competition, where Saprissa won 2 of their titles, sandwiched either side of a historic win for Cartaginés in 1994. And Costa Rican sides are still making waves. Just last week, Herediano shocked MLS champions LA Galaxy to a 1-0 first leg win. It's a perfect reminder that teams from Central America and even the Caribbean themselves, which we'll look at in a second, are able to pull off some of the most magical upsets. The first ever winners of the competition in 1962 were Mexican giants Chivas, but what if I told you that 1 year later, the crown went all the way over to Haiti, to Racing CH? And then there was that time in 1978 where they couldn't decide a winner, so they decided to give the award to 3 different clubs. The funny thing about this is that 2 of the winners from that year, Leones Negros and Comunicaciones of Guatemala, they've never won the competition outside of this year, and they had to share it with 2 other clubs. And there was also an added element that the other winner from that year, Defence Force of Trinidad and Tobago, were one of the few winners ever from the Caribbean. The reason why it went to 3 teams, just from my understanding from the research I've done, is that it was a mixture of administrative problems and the fact that none of the sides were willing to set a date for these games to take place. So this tournament has crowned champions from the likes of Haiti, Trinidad and Tobago, Guatemala, Nicaragua, basically all over the place, and even Trinidad and Tobago. I don't think any of us can truly comprehend how unreal this statement is. Countries with such a lack of support and funding have had sides that have managed to be crowned champions of the entire CONCACAF region. And to get a real insight to what this means to clubs from smaller countries, the Seattle Sounders manager Brian Schmetzer acknowledged history that when his side went to Guatemala in the first round of this year, he said himself it felt like it was an entire country against the Sounders. And that's the magic of this competition. It's like a David versus Goliath scenario. But there's a genuine chance every time this takes place that the smaller team from smaller countries can actually go on and create something special. I'm going to run you through some of the stories that have shocked the entire continent over the last couple of years. But if you have stories of your own about the CONCACAF, whether it's to do with international CONCACAF football or club football like the CONCACAF Champions Cup, then let me know down in the comments. Starting with Nicaraguan side Real Esteli. Okay, they didn't win any of these ties, but they did win the home leg against Club America and Tigres, 2 Mexican giants, despite having a squad value 30 times less than their counterparts. We've already mentioned Herediano with that historic 1-0 win against the LA Galaxy, but just last month they sent Real Salt Lake packing with a 97th minute winner in the US. And then the Haitian club Violeta pulled off one of the greatest shocks in history, knocking out Austin FC despite playing their home leg in another country, scrambling to sign players due to the visa issues. Another story at the expense of MLS sides comes from CD Olympia from Honduras, as they eliminated both the Seattle Sounders and the Montreal Impact in 2020. They shocked the Sounders on penalties before edging past Montreal Impact right before the pandemic crisis. Despite having to play their home legs at a neutral venue, they managed to get all the way to the semi-finals before eventually losing to Tigres. And last but not least is Panamanian side Árabe Unido, who are the only side outside of Costa Rica and the MLS to really go toe-to-toe with Mexican clubs. Back in 2016, the format of the competition was a group stage to begin with, and Árabe Unido managed to get back-to-back wins against Monterrey. In that group, they also managed to beat FC Dallas, but their competition came to an end in the quarterfinals. But overall, it showed that Panamanian football is on the rise. Okay, their tournament came to an end in the quarterfinals, but it was a historic run for a Panamanian football club in the CONCACAF. And that's why I love the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Every year we're seeing teams from the smallest pockets of the continent taking on its giants with the genuine belief that they could go on and win. Mexican clubs and MLS teams have all the money and the resources, but teams from other parts of the continent have this genuine belief every single year that they could go on and create something truly historic. So whilst the Champions League brings the glitz and the glamour and, the absolute best level football, there's no doubt that the Champions League is the best footballing competition in the world. But for me, the CONCACAF Champions Cup just brings something more natural and something more pure as the reason why we all fell in love with the beautiful game. So what are your favourite moments from the CONCACAF Champions Cup? Let me know down in the comment section below. And make sure to like and subscribe. Until next time, guys. Peace out.